Fairly early on, in about, I don't know, it was 50, 51, something like that, we had, I think it was Kraft, a dramatization of Queen Elizabeth called Of Famous Memory, I believe. The star was Nancy Marchand, who was a young lady at the time, and of course played the young Queen Elizabeth, and then winds up the old harridan. Well, this had to be done in a few very fast, quick changes. And what I did, because the characteristic we all know of Queen Elizabeth is her high, balding forehead. So what we did was at the very beginning of the show, I put a plastic bald pate, I mean just on the front of her head, which covered up her own hair. And then we put a big curly hairpiece on top of this that blended in with the rest of her curled hair. And for the young scenes, we simply positioned it in its normal position. So the hairline with this curly piece was, where it should be, over this plastic cap. As she got older, we simply kept sliding it back. It was a very simple device, and this is the sort of thing you had to figure out. The other thing was, for the final big change, I had to give her, this is a young lady with a thin face, and I had to give her some jowls and stuff to make her look old. And oh yes, and Queen Elizabeth, well, we think of Queen Elizabeth as Bette Davis playing the part, with heavy eyelids. So I had some false eyelids, but they were made, this is before my foam latex era, so they were made in that crazy stuff that I put on Vaughn Taylor that nearly fell off. And I have some of these kind of gelatinous pieces made that will fit on the sides of her face. And, and so in our last big change, during a commercial minute and a half or something like that, I'm slapping these things on and the wig goes up and she has this big ruff put on and the costume change. All this is done very fast. Unfortunately, we didn't get all the time we could have had. We missed, maybe 20 seconds or more, because the floor manager cued us out too quick. We were relying on him to give us every second possible. And so it worked, but it could have been better. I learned from that early experience not to trust the floor manager. And I learned that in doing quick changes, that I had to be allowed to use it up to virtually the last 2 or 3 seconds. I had to be able to work up to that time and then out. I was using this material, which I had this kind of, it's actually called a hot melt vinyl because you can melt it. And this vinyl material is very soft and mushy and flesh-like. But gluing it is very, very difficult. And I had found a medical adhesive that seemed to glue it. Spirit gum would not. So, but it was the first time I was using this thing. And of course, to clean it off, I went to a drugstore and I got some adhesive remover for medical appliances. And I tried it. I tried it on my hand or something like that. Yeah, it cleaned off the adhesive fine. What I didn't realize was that on the skin, which is more porous in a way, more sensitive, that if the skin was at all irritated, it burned very strongly. Well, Nancy had to go through a dress rehearsal. We had to clean all this stuff off, that heavy makeup at the end, and then do the live thing. And in the process of scrubbing, not scrubbing, but no matter how gently I tried to remove that sticky adhesive for another go at it, her face became so sensitive that to put on another drop to clean it up again was like fire. And the only way she could tolerate it at all, and she was a wonderful sport, was that I put a hairdryer on with cold air in order to evaporate the stuff as fast as possible and to cool off the burning sensation. I never again, I felt so bad, to this day, I feel bad that I hurt her like that. And after that, I never put anything on an actor's face without seriously testing it on my own face to make sure that there wasn't some unforeseen problem.